Pretend to be my boyfriend, just for 5 minutes. The words left my mouth before I could stop them. Standing there in front of a man I'd never seen before. A man whose dark gray suit probably cost more than everything I owned. Marcus Brennan, CEO, billionaire, completely untouchable. And there I was, in a borrowed dress that was literally falling apart, asking him to save me from the humiliation walking toward me across that Miami ballroom. He looked at me with those steel-colored eyes, studying every desperate detail of my face. 3 seconds of silence that felt like an eternity. Then he did something I never expected. He smiled, just slightly, and slid his arm around my waist like we'd done this 1,000 times before. "Yes, sweetheart," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. "Sorry, I'm late." You're going to be surprised by this story. Stick with me until the end, and you'll see why. But first, I have a small favor to ask. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what score you'd give this story from 0 to 10. This really helps the channel grow. Okay, let's begin. They called it an office, but it was really just a small room in the back of the Coral Bay Hotel between the towel storage and the generator room. I'd been there for 8 months, sitting in a chair that squeaked with every movement, surrounded by old furniture catalogs and a desk lamp that flickered like it was depressed too. The clock read 2:47 p.m. The company-wide meeting started in 13 minutes. I spun my chair toward the old laptop they'd given me, a Dell from the Bush era probably, and stared at the images on screen. My project, my concept, 8 months of work. Hundreds of sketches, a complete interior design system for luxury events that could revolutionize how the hotel attracted high-end clients. And David Chen, my boss and the company's creative director, was about to present it all upstairs as if it were his, again. You know what's funny? I said to myself, closing my laptop, Chen can't tell linen from cotton. He calls every hardwood mahogany. And yet there he is upstairs taking credit for my work. I grabbed my world's most okay-ish designer mug, a gift from Sophia, the receptionist who'd become my only friend here, and took the last sip of cold coffee, bitter, like my professional life. I could have reported Chen again. I'd tried 6 months ago when he first stole my work, set up a meeting with HR, brought proof, emails, time-stamped sketches. Chen countered by saying I was emotionally unstable, confused about hierarchy, possibly experiencing delusions of authorship. HR believed him, of course. He wore a mani and spoke confidently about disruptive synergy. I wore a college hoodie and avoided eye contact. The result? Demotion from the 3rd floor to the back room, from senior designer to project assistant. Translation, do what you're told and nothing more. 30% salary cut. But I stayed because I needed the money, because my mom, sick for 9 months now, needed treatment that insurance refused to fully cover. Chemotherapy, radiation, experimental drugs that cost more than a car. I was paying every bill, every cent, with credit card interest that would follow me to my grave. So I swallowed my pride, went down to the back room, and kept working, quietly, invisibly. My phone buzzed. Message from Sophia. Meeting starting. Chen's got that smile again like he's about to steal credit. Coming to watch or staying down there? I typed back, I'm good company for myself. Don't interrupt me or steal my work. Fair, but seriously, come watch. At least laugh at his face when he lies. I sighed. Technically, I wasn't required to go. No one from the back room ever did. But something inside me, something unwilling to give in, wanted to see it. Wanted to watch Chen steal my work live in high definition in front of the entire company. Maybe because I needed to remind myself why I felt so defeated. Or maybe because deep down, I still had a thread of hope that someone would notice the fraud. Spoiler, no one would. But I went anyway. The 3rd floor auditorium was packed. At least 80 employees squeezed into uncomfortable chairs, pretending to pay attention while secretly checking their phones. I slipped into the back row, behind a tall colleague who blocked my view. Perfect. Invisible mode activated. On the small stage, David Chen adjusted the microphone. Navy suit, red tie, too much hair gel. Smiled like a late-night infomercial host. Good afternoon, team. He opened his arms as if welcoming everyone into his home. Today is a historic day for Coral Bay Design Group. I rolled my eyes so hard I almost saw my own brain. After months of hard work, sleepless nights, sacrificed weekends, lots of coffee, he chuckled at his own hilarious joke. We finally completed the complete redesign project for our luxury event spaces. Completed. Singular. First person. I. My blood boiled. Chen clicked the remote. The PowerPoint appeared on screen, the one I'd created 3 weeks ago and sent him for review. This design concept, Chen continued, pointing to colorful charts, uses integrated biophilia elements, color palettes based on environmental psychology, and adaptive lighting to create memorable experiences that increase client satisfaction by 67%. Polite applause. I recognized every slide, every word, every comma. He even used the same analogy I'd written on slide 7. Good design isn't just seen, it's felt in the soul. The audience sighed, moved, Chin soaked in the reaction like a seasoned comedian. And best of all, he said, his smile growing wider, we already have investors interested. We're talking millions in funding, maybe even a future acquisition by an international hotel chain. More applause, this time genuine. I felt something strange in my chest, a mix of anger, desperation, and hysterical laughter. I laughed softly, a laugh of disbelief. The coworker in front turned around, confused. I pretended to cough. Chen wrapped it up. Thank you to the team who supported me through this journey. Together, we're unstoppable. Team? I wasn't even mentioned. Of course not. I was in the back room, project assistant, nobody. Invisible. The meeting ended. Employees congratulated Chen. Handshakes, pats on the back. I walked out through the side door, down the stairs, back to the back room. I sat down, opened my laptop, looked at the images on screen. My project. My creation. Stolen again. And I couldn't do anything because I needed the paycheck, because I needed my mom to stay alive. So I did what I always did, swallowed the injustice and kept working. But this time, something felt different. I saw the digital invitation in my inbox. Interior Design Awards Gala, Oceanfront Grand Hotel, Miami. Black tie, executives and investors only. I wasn't invited, of course, but I looked at the screen, at the project, at the work Chen was about to turn into millions, and I thought, I built this. I deserve to be there, even if no one knows it. So I opened my calendar and made a mental note. Friday, 7 p.m. Maybe it was time to stop being invisible, even if just for one night. Sophia Santos had 2 remarkable talents: getting free coffee at any Starbucks in town, and faking corporate badges without leaving a trace. Done, Sophia said Wednesday afternoon, handing me a laminated badge with a photo of someone named Jennifer Morrison, external consultant. You're Jennifer now. Congratulations on the promotion. I held the badge like it might explode. This is a crime, right? Like a real crime. Federal prison kind of crime. Technically, yes. Realistically, only if you get caught. Sophia shrugged. And you won't. There are 300 people at this event. You'll just be another well-dressed party crasher. I'm not well-dressed. I'm wearing your dress that's 2 sizes too small and already coming apart. Sophia looked at the navy blue dress I'd borrowed last minute from her closet. The side seam was clearly hanging on for dear life. Okay, true, but under low lighting, no one will notice. Just don't breathe too deep. Great tip. I'll hold my breath all night. Exactly. See, you're already thinking like a professional infiltrator. I hung the badge around my neck and looked in the bathroom mirror. Hair pulled back in a bun that almost looked intentional. Minimal makeup because that's all I knew how to do. Borrowed heels, 2 sizes too big, with Band-Aids carefully placed on my heels to avoid blisters. I looked like an intern pretending to be a grown-up. Perfect! Half of the external consultants have exactly that vibe. Sophia adjusted the badge. Now go watch Chen soak up all the praise he doesn't deserve. Come back and we'll order pizza while you tell me every dramatic detail. I took a deep breath. Mistake. The seam groaned. If I get arrested, will you visit me? Every week, I'll bring cookies. Thanks. You're a terrible but loyal friend. It's on my resume. The oceanfront Grand Hotel ballroom looked exactly like the kind of place I'd only seen in movies. Huge chandeliers, Italian marble, waiters walking around with trays of appetizers that probably cost more than my electric bill. I entered through the side door. Sophia's tactical tip: never go through the front. Security pays attention there. I showed the fake badge to the security guard at the side door. He barely looked before nodding me in. It worked. I'm officially a criminal now. The room was packed. Executives in suits, women in evening gowns, conversations about market disruption and exponential ROI. I immediately felt like a fish out of water. A fish in a tight dress with a fake badge. I walked toward the back of the room, trying to look confident, until the oversized heel twisted on the red carpet. I stumbled, arms flailing like a bird trying to take flight, and almost fell flat on my face. 3 people looked my way. I recovered miraculously, bent down, and touched the red carpet as if evaluating it. Interesting material, I murmured to no one in particular. Definitely synthetic fiber. The people looked away, uninterested. I stood up and practically ran behind a marble column, my heart pounding like a heavy metal drum solo. Great, Hannah. First minute and you've almost exposed yourself as a clumsy party crasher. From my hiding spot behind the column, I watched the ballroom. Up ahead on a small improvised stage with a microphone, there he was, David Chen. Impeccable gray suit, smiling and gesturing energetically as he spoke with a group of investors, men with gray hair and Rolex watches. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but I could see the investors nodding, clearly impressed. One of them patted Chen on the shoulder, laughing at something he said. My stomach turned. Then the microphone came on. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Chen began, his voice echoing through the hall. Thank you for being here tonight to celebrate the official launch of the Coastal Elegance Project. Polite applause. I recognized the name. My original name for the project had been Elegance Coast. Chen had just flipped it because it sounded more professional. This design project represents months of dedicated work, sleepless nights, and the passion of a united, committed team. Team. I looked around. I saw a few coworkers from the 3rd floor, analysts, product managers, drinking champagne and waving. None from the back room. None were me. I created this, I thought, my hands clenching into fists. Me, alone in the back room. For 1 second, a sharp, intense second, I thought about walking up there, grabbing the microphone, shouting, I made this, not him, me. But then I looked around, at the investors, at the executives, at Chen, confident, smooth, respected, and at myself, an outsider in a borrowed dress about to rip, wearing a fake badge. Who would they believe? The respected creative director or the demoted designer who'd snuck into the event? Coward, I whispered to myself. The word hurt more than it should have. Chen ended his speech to more applause. Investors surrounded him, handshakes, wide smiles. I turned to leave. Maybe this had been a mistake. Maybe I should just go home. Back to the back room. Back to safe invisibility. That's when I saw him. Perfectly styled blonde hair, a blue suit that screamed, I make 6 figures a year, a confident smile. Daniel Reed, my ex-boyfriend, crossing the ballroom, and hanging on his arm in a red Versace dress and jewelry that sparkled like warning signs, Victoria Lang, heading straight toward me. Daniel Reed moved through the gala like he owned the place. Broad shoulders, confident grin, navy blue suit probably worth more than 3 months of my rent, and hanging on his arm like a living accessory, Victoria Lang. Blonde hair and perfect waves that defied gravity, a red Versace dress, a diamond necklace shining like a lighthouse in the fog. I considered my escape options. Option A, dive under the canapé table. Too desperate. Option B, fake a heart attack. Too dramatic. Option C, literally dig a hole through the Italian marble floor with my nails. Tempting, but physically impossible. Option D, too late. Daniel stopped exactly 6 feet from me, one eyebrow raised in fake surprise, as if he hadn't seen me already. Hannah. Daniel forced a smile that probably looked more like stomach pain. What a surprise. Truly surprising, I managed. Victoria stepped forward, her voice high and sharp like an irritating wind chime. She looked me up and down with the subtlety of an airport scanner. Hannah, oh my gosh, you're here. Are you working the catering or part of the cleaning crew? 2 people nearby laughed softly, the polite kind of laugh rich people give when someone makes a rude joke in public. My face burned. Actually, I work at the company launching the project. Oh, right. Daniel tilted his head, using that tone, the same condescending one he used during our relationship when explaining obvious things. Hannah works at the company. In the back, right? Hen, the nickname. The same one he used to whisper during sweet, private moments, now turned into a blade against my chest. In the back. Victoria laughed way too loud, clutching Daniel's arm like he was her Super Bowl trophy. That's so specific. I gripped my champagne glass so tightly I was afraid I might break the crystal. Yeah, specific, like my job, project assistant. How cute! Victoria tilted her head like a dog trying to understand a complicated command. Like you organize fabric samples? Daniel laughed. Something like that. Actually, I said, my voice sharper than I intended, I develop complete interior design concepts. But yes, I organize samples too. I'm versatile. Victoria blinked, clearly not understanding half the words. That's so high-end. More quiet laughter around us. I noticed we were drawing a small audience now. 3, 4 people paying attention, waiting for the next round of public humiliation. Daniel stepped closer, deliberately invading my personal space. So, Han, did you come alone or did you bring someone? The question had layers. Are you still alone? Are you still the same unambitious girl I left? Haven't you moved on? I swallowed. I came for work, professional networking. Of course, of course. Daniel nodded like a teacher pretending to believe a bad excuse. Makes sense. Victoria leaned in, her voice low but loud enough for the mini crowd to hear. Daniel told me you two dated. That's so sweet. A college thing, right? College thing. We broke up 6 months ago. I was 27. It wasn't a college thing. It was 2 adults building something real until one of them decided to trade me for a hotel heiress. But Victoria said it like I was some high school crush Daniel got over once he discovered cars and beer. Yeah, Daniel agreed, looking at me with something between pity and amusement. It was a phase. A phase. 8 months, meeting each other's families, talking about the future, planning a trip to Seattle that never happened, all reduced to phase. I took a deep breath. The dress seam groaned, a constant threat of structural disaster. Well, I said, trying to sound casual, phases end, like yogurt expiration dates. Daniel frowned. Did you just compare our relationship to yogurt? Yes. Both were good at first, but went sour and had to be thrown out. Victoria let out a sharp laugh. She's funny, Daniel. You didn't tell me she was funny. Yeah, hilarious. Daniel wasn't laughing. I took the opening, but congratulations on the engagement. I heard it happened really fast, like light speed fast. 3 weeks after you broke up with me. Victoria stopped laughing. Daniel adjusted his tie. Hannah, it wasn't like, no hard feelings. I raised the glass and a fake toast. Honestly, I hope you two are very happy. You found someone on your level. I used his word, the same word he'd thrown at me in a text when he ended things. I need someone on my level. Daniel got it. His jaw tightened. Exactly, Victoria said, completely missing the irony. Daniel deserves someone who understands him, someone with ambition. Ambition. Daniel's second favorite word. I felt something burning in my chest. Not anger. Worse. It was public humiliation mixed with a pathetic desire to prove I was worth something. Ambition, I repeated, my voice steady. Of course. Like working in the back, building projects worth millions while other people take the credit. So unambitious. Daniel shrugged. But no one knows it was you, right? So technically, it doesn't count. The words hit like a punch to the stomach. No one knows? It doesn't count? Victoria glanced at her diamond-covered Apple Watch. Honey, shall we? I want to meet that investor from Dubai you mentioned. Of course, baby. Daniel kissed her forehead, a possessive, performative gesture. Then he looked at me one last time. It was good seeing you, Han. Take care, okay? The tone was almost kind. Almost. But underneath it was that final layer of condescension. Poor thing, still fighting alone while I climb higher. They walked away, Victoria laughing at something Daniel whispered in her ear. I stayed where I was, alone, behind the marble column. The small audience that had watched the scene scattered, going back to their conversations about ROI and disruption. I held the champagne glass, took a deep breath. The seam of the dress groaned loudly this time, and tried not to fall apart in public. No one knows it was you, so it doesn't count. The words echoed. Maybe Daniel was right. Maybe I was invisible. That's when I saw him. In the farthest corner of the room, leaning against the wall like someone serving a social sentence. Tall, dark gray tailored suit, impeccable posture, an expression of quiet existential boredom. 2 men in black suits stood near him, discreet but alert. The man held a glass of red wine, staring into the distance as if calculating how much longer he had to stay. I didn't know who he was, but I knew one thing. He looked important. And I had the worst, or best, idea of my life. The man in the corner of the ballroom looked as interested in the event as I was in hearing Daniel talk about market synergy for another 5 minutes. He refused champagne for the 3rd time. A woman in a red dress tried to start a conversation. He answered with single words until she gave up, defeated. Perfect, I thought. Someone who hates being here as much as I do. Then I heard Victoria's voice, loud enough to be intentional. Obviously, she came alone. Poor thing. Daniel laughed. Han was always kind of a loner. 3 people looked at me with pity, and something inside me just cracked. Not the collapse on the floor kind, the I'm already at rock bottom so bring on the bulldozer kind. I crossed the ballroom, heels clicking on the marble, the seams of the dress protesting, walked right past the man's security and grabbed his arm. Babe, you made it. I thought you'd missed the entrance. The entire ballroom froze, the kind of cinematic freeze where even the dust particles stopped floating in the air. 300 pairs of eyes turned toward me. The man, the stranger I had just turned into my fake boyfriend without asking permission, consent, or even knowing his name, stopped breathing for a second. He stared at me, steel gray eyes, cold, analytical, breaking down every detail, the borrowed dress, the questionable badge, the barely hidden desperation on my face. 3 seconds. I felt a cold drop of sweat slide down the back of my neck. 4 seconds. The guard stepped forward, ready to drag me away. 5 seconds. I thought, that's it, I'm done. I'm going to get arrested. I'll become a meme. Then he did something completely unexpected. He raised his hand, a small, almost invisible gesture, the kind of thing kings do in period films. The guard stepped back immediately, as if pulled by invisible strings. The man tilted his head slightly, a faint smile touching the corner of his mouth, and then, in a deep, controlled voice that echoed through the silent ballroom like distant thunder, he said, "Yes, sweetheart. Sorry I'm late." And then, by all the patron saints of the desperate and compulsive liars, he slid his arm around my waist, firm, warm, possessive, like we did it every day, like it was the most natural thing in the world. My brain completely short-circuited. What? What? What is happening? The ballroom exploded in whispers. Who is she? How does she pull this off? That's Marcus Brennan. Marcus Brennan has a girlfriend? Daniel, 3 feet away, turned pale as if he'd seen a ghost. Victoria tried to smile, but it looked more like she swallowed a whole lemon. And I, Hannah Price, interior designer demoted to the back room, stolen project creator, humiliated ex-girlfriend, was being held by the waist by the most powerful man in the room. And I didn't even know his name. Technically, now I did. Marcus Brennan. But that didn't help because I had absolutely no idea who Marcus Brennan was. He leaned in, lips close to my ear, voice low enough for only me to hear. "You have 30 seconds to tell me why I shouldn't have my security remove you from here." I froze, then whispered back, desperate. "My ex is over there with the rich fiancé. They were coming to humiliate me. I just needed a way out. Please, just until they leave. I'm begging you." Marcus studied me for another second. Then, surprisingly, the faint smile grew. Just a little. "Interesting. And what do I get out of this?" I improvised, panicked. "The satisfaction of ruining the night of horrible people?" He chuckled, not loud, just a quiet, amused breath, barely audible. "Fair enough." And he kept holding me, like I really was his girlfriend. Pretending to be the girlfriend of a billionaire you met literally 90 seconds ago was, as I discovered, surprisingly hard. Especially when he had the posture of someone used to commanding Wall Street boardrooms, and I had the posture of someone used to working in a back room. Marcus kept his arm firmly around my waist, not uncomfortable, but definitely present, like he was claiming territory. I tried to look natural, failed, miserably. So I began, my voice coming out weird and high. "Are you enjoying the event?" Marcus looked at me, one eyebrow slightly raised. "You really want to make small talk right now." "I don't know what to do. I've never pretended to be anyone's girlfriend before." First time for everything. A middle-aged woman, hair in a tight bun, pearl necklace the size of quail eggs, approached. She looked at me with thinly veiled curiosity. "Marcus, darling." The woman smiled, her teeth too white to be natural. "It's been so long, and who is this charming companion?" Marcus didn't hesitate. "Margaret, this is Hannah, my girlfriend." The words hit like a nuclear bomb at a children's birthday party. Margaret blinked 3 times, processing. "Girlfriend? You? But you always said relationships were complicated." "Yes," Marcus interrupted smoothly. "Hannah changed my perspective." He looked at me with something that almost resembled genuine affection. Almost. I forced a smile and waved. "Hi, yes, that's me, the perspective changer." Margaret laughed, a sharp sound like a bicycle horn. "How wonderful. How did you two meet?" Silence. I hadn't prepared a backstory. Neither had Marcus. We looked at each other. Shared panic moment. Then Marcus said in a casual tone, "At work." "At the gym," I added at the same time. Pause. Margaret frowned. She works at my gym, Marcus corrected without missing a beat. Personal trainer? I almost choked. Personal trainer. I could barely do 3 push-ups without wanting to die, but I nodded. Yes, I train people, physically, with weights and cardio. How interesting. Margaret looked me up and down, clearly trying to imagine me lifting anything heavier than a laptop. You must be very dedicated. Oh yes, super dedicated. I lift things, heavy things. Marcus squeezed my waist lightly, half warning, half stifled laugh. Margaret said goodbye, still glancing back curiously as she walked away. As soon as she was out of earshot, I whispered, "Personal trainer? Seriously? You said gym." I panicked. And you said work. How does that turn into personal trainer? Improvise, Marcus said, completely calm. I thought you'd appreciate creativity. I appreciate not being exposed as a compulsive liar. Technically, you started the lie. I'm just expanding the narrative. Another couple approached. The man in the pinstripe suit, the woman in a gold dress that sparkled like a disco ball. Marcus Brennan, the man said, shaking his hand enthusiastically. I heard you closed the deal with Apex Industries. Congratulations. Marcus shook his hand. Professional. Thank you, Richard. Richard looked at me. And this is Hannah, my girlfriend. The woman practically sparkled with curiosity. Girlfriend? Marcus Brennan has a girlfriend? That's headline news. I laughed nervously. Yes, well, headlines happen. Awkward silence. Marcus stepped in. Hannah is an interior designer. Finally, something true. Richard looked impressed. A designer? What field? I relaxed just a little. This I could talk about. Luxury event design, integrated biophilia concepts, palettes based on environmental psychology. Fascinating. The woman leaned closer. Do you work for any well-known company? I opened my mouth, then remembered. Coral Bay Design Group, David Chen, The Stolen Project. Telling the truth would expose everything. Independent consulting. Marcus lied smoothly, saving me again. She prefers not to tie herself to just one company. Of course, creative freedom, Richard nodded, buying it completely. They said goodbye. I exhaled, shaking. Thank you, again. You're terrible at lying, Marcus observed, almost amused. I know, that's why I never lie, but you put me in this impossible situation. You put yourself there, he corrected. I just agreed to play along. Why? I turned to him, genuinely confused. Why did you agree to this? You don't even know me. Marcus studied me for a long moment. Then he said, his voice lower, because I saw the way your ex looked at you, like you were disposable. Pause. And I saw the way you looked at him, like it still hurt. I lost my breath. No one deserves to be treated like they're disposable, Marcus continued, especially someone brave enough to cross a room and grab the arm of a complete stranger. I felt something strange in my chest. Warmth. Surprise. Something dangerously close to hope. You're very philosophical for a billionaire, I murmured. And you're very sarcastic for a personal trainer. This time, I laughed. For real. Then the music changed. A classical waltz started to play. Live orchestra in the corner of the ballroom. The master of ceremonies announced, voice amplified, "Ladies and gentlemen, we invite all couples to the dance floor." Dance floor. I froze. Marcus looked at the dance floor, then at me. Do you know how to waltz? Technically, no. I watched Cinderella about 15 times as a kid, but that doesn't count. It definitely doesn't count. Couples began moving to the center of the room, including Daniel and Victoria, gliding gracefully as if they were in a ballroom competition. Daniel looked straight at me, a teasing smile. I bet you don't have the courage to dance. I felt the heat rise in my chest. Then Marcus did something completely unexpected. He held out his hand to me, formal, elegant. Let's show them how it's done. I looked at his hand, at the dance floor, at Daniel with that awful grin. I'm going to step on your foot, probably more than once. I've survived worse. I took a deep breath. I took his hand. And everything got worse. I didn't know how to dance a waltz. Technically, I could walk in a straight line without tripping most of the time, so in theory, I should be able to move my feet in a repeated pattern to classical music. Theory was about to collide violently with reality. Marcus led me to the dance floor, firm hand on my back, the other holding mine with surprising gentleness for someone who probably signed billion-dollar contracts with that same hand. I have no idea what I'm doing, I whispered, panicked. I know, just follow me. Easy for you to say. You probably had dance lessons in some European castle. Switzerland. Close enough. Was he joking? I couldn't tell. The music started. Soft violins, a melancholy piano, something by Strauss say vaguely recognized from a perfume commercial. Marcus pulled me into the classic waltz position, his right hand firm on my waist, his left hand holding my right hand slightly raised. Left foot back when I step forward, he instructed in a low voice. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I tried. I took 3 steps, stepped on his foot. Sorry, I whispered, mortified. That wasn't part of the revenge plan, Marcus said calmly. I've survived worse. Keep going. We started again. This time I managed 5 steps before a small stumble. Marcus adjusted, compensating for my mistake so smoothly no one noticed. How do you do that? I asked, genuinely confused. Practice, and accepting you'll step on my foot at least 3 more times. Optimistic, I'd say 5. He almost smiled. Around us, other couples were dancing. Daniel and Victoria at the center, of course, spinning in perfect sync as if competing for a gold medal. Daniel looked straight at me, raised an eyebrow. Look at that! She found someone. What a surprise! Victoria whispered something in his ear, laughing. I felt anger rising. Breathe, Marcus said, calm voice. He wants to see you lose it. Don't give him that satisfaction. Easy for you to say. You don't have an idiot ex-boyfriend watching you like you're some kind of joke. True, my ex knew better than to show up. We kept dancing. I started to get the rhythm, not perfectly, but enough to avoid disaster every 3 seconds. Marcus guided me with natural confidence, as if waltzing were as easy as signing checks or running board meetings. His hand on my waist was firm, warm, steady. I realized with some surprise that I felt safe. 2 men in suits, clearly important investors, shiny Rolex watches, the kind of posture that said they were used to being the richest in the room, approached the dance floor. One of Marcus's security guards appeared out of nowhere, discreet, efficient, and blocked their path. Words were exchanged in low voices. The investors backed off, clearly disappointed. I looked at Marcus. Okay, seriously, who on earth are you? I already told you. Marcus Brennan. That's not an answer. You have security blocking investors. People literally bow when you walk by. I invest in companies, Marcus said casually, like he was describing a weekend hobby. Mostly hospitality sector. Define invest. I buy shares. Sometimes I buy the entire company. Depends on the day. I almost stumbled again. You buy companies? Whole companies? For fun? It's not fun. It's work. Right, like buying a bakery is my job. Marcus twirled me, smooth, controlled, and suddenly we were closer than before. He looked at me. Curious expression. Your ex, he said softly. What exactly did he do? The question caught me off guard. I hadn't planned to answer, hadn't planned to open that wound in front of a complete stranger. But the words came out anyway. He said I had no ambition, that I was small, that I'd never do anything important. He broke up with me over text. 3 weeks later, he was engaged to her. I subtly nodded toward Victoria, spinning gracefully in Daniel's arms. Marcus stayed quiet for a moment. Then he squeezed my hand a little tighter, not enough to hurt, but enough to mean something. Idiot, he said. Simple, direct. One word. But it carried absolute conviction. I felt something strange in my chest. Warmth? Relief? Something dangerously close to validation. You don't even know me, I murmured. I don't need to. Marcus spun me again, moving perfectly in time with the music. Anyone with eyes can see that you're smart, brave, resilient. I blinked, trying to process. You got that from 5 minutes of conversation? I got that from the fact that you walked across a room full of intimidating people, grabbed the arm of a total stranger surrounded by security, and pulled off a fake relationship act in front of 300 people. Pause. That's not a lack of ambition, that's boldness. I had no words. Daniel and Victoria passed near us at that moment. Daniel deliberately slowed down, making sure to look at me with that same condescending smile. Han, you're dancing. How cute. I didn't know you had coordination for that. Before I could answer, probably with something sarcastic and useless, Marcus stepped in. He looked at Daniel with a neutral expression, not hostile, not friendly, just indifferent, as if Daniel were a mildly annoying insect. Excuse me, Marcus said, polite but firm. You are. Daniel blinked, clearly offended. Daniel Reed. Han and I. Ah, Marcus cut him off. The ex. Got it. Silence. Daniel turned red. Victoria squeezed his arm, trying to pull him away. Marcus continued, still polite. Nice to meet you. If you'll excuse me, I'm dancing with my girlfriend. And he spun me away, ending the conversation. I stared at him, speechless. You just... Yes, that was necessary. I wanted to laugh and cry and kiss this man. Okay, maybe not that last part. Not yet. We kept dancing. Daniel and Victoria walked off, clearly irritated, their perfect dance moments completely ruined. I looked at Marcus. Really looked. He wasn't just wealthy. He wasn't just confident. He was kind. And his cold, controlled, intimidating way. Thank you, I said softly. For what? For not making me feel small. Marcus held my gaze. You were never small, Hannah. You were just surrounded by small people who made you believe you were. And then, in the middle of the waltz, in the middle of the room, something inside me began to heal. That's when I felt it. The side seam of the dress giving out. R.I.P. Not loud, but definite. I froze. No, I whispered. No, no, no. Marcus noticed immediately. The dress? The dress. How much time do we have? Seconds, maybe minutes if I don't breathe. And then the worst possible thing happened. The dress started giving out more. That exact moment in life when you realize your borrowed dress is about to fall apart in the middle of a gala with 300 people watching is, I discovered, the kind of experience that redefines the meaning of worst nightmare. The side seam made a low sound, R.I.P., that only Marcus and I heard. But in my mind, it was as loud as a siren. Don't panic, Marcus said, his voice calm, still dancing. Easy for you to say. You're not about to become a public joke. True. But I'm not panicking either, because you won't be exposed. Marcus stopped dancing, gently, naturally, as if the music had ended. It hadn't. Then he did something I didn't expect. He let go of me, took off his blazer, the dark gray tailored blazer that probably cost more than my yearly salary, and placed it on my shoulders. The gesture was so natural, so smooth, it looked rehearsed, as if we had planned it in advance. The whole room noticed. Whispers spread. He gave her his blazer. That's so romantic. Who is she? Marcus buttoned the blazer on me, slowly, one button at a time, looking directly into my eyes. I froze, unable to process what was happening. He adjusted the collar, smoothed the shoulders, made sure it was secure. There, he said softly, just for me to hear. Now, no one sees anything but you. I looked down. The blazer covered the problem area completely. It was snug on me, but somehow it worked. I felt the warm fabric against my skin. It carried his scent, woody, expensive, definitely not bought at a drugstore. If this blazer is insured, I whispered, trying to ease the tension, please let me know. I'll need to pay for it in installments, like a 30-year mortgage. Marcus laughed. Not a polite laugh, not a forced breath. A real laugh. Low, short, but real. Keep it, he said, still smiling lightly. It looks better on you than it ever did on me. I seriously doubted that, but I wasn't about to argue while the blazer was saving me from public humiliation. The ballroom kept buzzing, half impressed, half shocked. Daniel and Victoria stood frozen in the middle of the dance floor. Daniel with barely hidden irritation, Victoria red-faced and jaw clenched. I began searching for words. Thank you. Really, you didn't have to. I did. Marcus interrupted. You were about to have a problem. I fixed it. Simple. Nothing about tonight is simple. Fair? An older woman approached, perfectly styled gray hair, an emerald green dress, a diamond necklace that probably cost more than a suburban house. She carried an air of importance, like a retired senator or a multinational CEO. Marcus, dear, she smiled, opening her arms. How long has it been since that dreadful board meeting in Boston? Senator Williams, Marcus nodded respectfully. It's good to see you. Senator, of course, because nothing tonight could be normal. Senator Williams looked at me with genuine, approving curiosity. And who is this charming company? Marcus didn't hesitate for a second. Hannah, my girlfriend. The word landed in the air like a nuclear bomb. Girlfriend. Not friend, not acquaintance, girlfriend. I almost choked, managing to turn it into a polite cough. Senator Williams practically lit up with joy. Girlfriend? Marcus Brennan has a girlfriend? I thought I'd never live to see the day. Surprises happen, Marcus said, completely calm. The senator turned to me with a warm smile. Dear, you've accomplished the impossible. This man has been married to his work for 10 years. How did you win him over? I opened my mouth, closed it, opened it again. Persistence and questionable charm. The senator laughed, delighted. Modesty, I love it. She said her goodbyes, still smiling, and returned to her group of equally important and intimidating people. As soon as she was out of earshot, I turned to Marcus, wide-eyed. Girlfriend? Don't you think that was a little too much? Marcus shrugged calmly. You started it. I'm just following the script. There was no script. We're improvising pretty well, actually. I wanted to argue. I wanted to point out that this was getting completely out of control. But then I realized I didn't want it to stop. Having someone, especially someone like Marcus Brennan, protecting me, standing up for me, believing in me, it was strange. It was good. It was terrifying. Great, I muttered, mostly to myself. Now I'm the fake girlfriend of a man who could probably sue me in 47 different countries. 52, technically, Marcus corrected, but who's counting? I stared at him, open mouthed. Are you joking with me? Maybe. I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. I chose to laugh. We stood there for a moment, me wearing his blazer, him without it, which somehow made him look even more intimidating. The whole ballroom still sneaking glances our way. A waiter passed by with a tray of appetizers. Finally, I muttered, grabbing one. Food. Proof that this night is real and not a stress-induced hallucination. Marcus picked up a glass of wine from the tray. You're doing well, considering. Considering my life is falling apart in slow motion? Considering you're improvising a fake relationship in front of some of the most powerful people on the East Coast. When you put it that way, it sounds even worse. I bit into the canapé. It was smoked salmon with something fancy I couldn't identify. This canapé probably cost $15, I said with my mouth half full. I could buy lunch for a whole week with that. Marcus almost smiled again. You're refreshingly practical. You mean poor. You can say it. No, I mean genuine. I stopped chewing. The way he looked at me, it wasn't pity, it wasn't condescension, it was curiosity, real interest, like I was a puzzle he wanted to solve. You work in design, Marcus said. It wasn't a question. Yes, interior design, luxury event concepts specifically, biophilia integration, palettes based on environmental psychology. I stopped. I realized I was talking way too fast. Too excited about design at a gala to a billionaire who probably had better things to do. Sorry, I said, blushing. I kind of get carried away when I talk about projects. Marcus didn't look away. Go on, he said. And that's when I made the fatal mistake. I opened my mouth about the project. Someone nearby made a comment about the newly launched project, Coastal Elegance, praising its revolutionary concept and impeccable execution. I, still wearing Marcus's blazer, still processing the fact that I had danced a waltz without falling, still trying to understand how my life had turned into the script of an absurd romantic comedy, heard it and reacted instinctively. The hanging garden concept with amber lighting was mine, I said casually, as if commenting on the weather. Even the choice of white orchids and the 5-course tasting menu. He literally copied my sketch notebook. Silence. Not the polite kind of silence, though, what did you just say, kind? Marcus stopped drinking his wine, slowly turned toward me. How do you know that? Oh no. My brain went into full panic abort mission mode. I overheard some people, you know how design folks love to talk about projects and forearms and Pinterest, lots of Pinterest. Marcus didn't buy it, not even a little. This kind of information, he said, his voice controlled but with an intensity that made me want to dig a hole and hide, isn't in forums. It isn't on Pinterest. It's internal documentation, senior designer level. He paused, or original creator. I opened my mouth, closed it, opened it again like a fish out of water. I'm really good at Google. Hannah. The way he said my name, not angry, not accusatory, just determined, made me realize that Marcus Brennan was not the kind of man who accepted evasive answers. Okay, look, I began. Then David Chen showed up. Of course, because my timing was always perfect. Mr. Brennan, Chen practically ran toward us, hand extended, used car salesman smile. It is an honor to have you here. I hope you're impressed with our work. Marcus looked at Chen's extended hand. Didn't shake it, just looked. Chen lowered his hand, laughing nervously. Your work? Marcus repeated, tone neutral. Well, the teams, of course, Chen gestured vaguely, but the central vision, the strategic architecture, that was mine. Marcus interrupted, subtly pointing to me with his wine glass. And her? What was her role? Chen looked at me for the first time. Quick, just a status check. Then looked away like I was part of the furniture. Oh, Hannah. He laughed, condescending. Administrative support, file organization, documentation, those kinds of things. Very important to keep everything organized. Administrative support? I felt the blood boil. My fists clenched inside the oversized sleeves of Marcus's blazer. But before I could speak, before I could yell, expose, explode, Marcus spoke. His voice was dangerously calm. The calm before the storm kind of calm. Interesting, because she just described a specific design concept that even my technical audit team hasn't identified yet. Chen froze. The fake smile was still there, but his eyes went straight into panic mode. Well, you know how it is. Information circulates. Circulates, Marcus repeated. The word dripped pure sarcasm. Information about exclusive design concepts just circulates? Chen started sweating visibly. I can explain. Please, Marcus gestured for him to continue. Waited. Chen opened his mouth, closed it, looked at me with something between anger and desperation, then mumbled, I need to check something with the team. Excuse me. And ran. Literally ran across the ballroom like a man running from a lawsuit. I stood still, shaking slightly. Marcus turned to me, steady gaze, analytical. We're going to talk, he said. It wasn't a request. Alone. 6 months later, Hannah Price had an office with a window. Not a tiny back room window, a real window. An entire glass wall with a view of the city. Natural light, air conditioning that worked, an ergonomic chair that didn't squeak with every movement, and a nameplate on the door. Hannah Price, creative director. I still looked at the sign sometimes, just to make sure it was real. Inside the office, my team, the one I built, interviewed, approved, worked in harmony. 5 brilliant designers who respected me, listened to me, and never ever tried to steal credit. Coastal elegance exploded. 2 million users at luxury events, 0 complaints, 67% more efficient than any competitor. And everyone knew who created it. David Chen, fired 3 days after the press conference, currently facing charges for intellectual property theft and corporate fraud. Daniel and Victoria broke up spectacularly. He was caught cheating with the personal trainer, a cliche but deeply satisfying. Sophia, promoted to senior manager with a 20% raise, still delivering high-quality office gossip. My mom, in remission, smiling again, making plans for the future. And Marcus? I was reviewing design concepts. Line 247 had an annoying bug that had been bothering me for 20 minutes when he walked in without knocking, because Marcus Brennan didn't knock. He just entered my space like it was his too. Technically it was. He was the majority investor, but still. Busy? He asked, leaning against the door. Always. I have a meeting in 15 minutes with the infrastructure team. Cancel it. I can't cancel. I'm the creative director. I have responsibilities, credibility to maintain. Hannah. Something in his tone made me stop typing. I looked up. Marcus was holding a small, dark blue velvet box. I stopped breathing. Before you make a joke, Marcus said, voice steady but with a hint of nervousness. Marcus Brennan, nervous? Let me talk. He stepped into the office, closed the door. I don't believe in over-the-top romance. I'm not going to propose in a fancy restaurant with a violinist and roses, but I believe in you, in us, in building something real. And then, by all the gods of design, he got down on one knee. Marcus Brennan, billionaire, CEO, a man who commanded board meetings without blinking, kneeling in my office. I felt my eyes burn. Hannah Price? He opened the box. Simple, elegant ring. Diamond that shone but didn't scream. Will you marry me? I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. And before you answer, Marcus continued, a nervous smile appearing. Know that 1, I'll support you always in everything. 2, I'll protect you from anyone who doubts you, verbally, legally, whatever it takes. 3, I'll never ever take credit for your work. Not by accident, not even as a joke. Pause. And 4, I'll love you every day, even when you insist on paying for dinner. I laughed, a mix of laugh and sob. You rehearsed this? For 3 weeks. My lawyers thought it was embarrassing, asked me to stop using meeting time to rehearse a marriage proposal. They're right. This is embarrassing. So is it a yes, or should I stay on my knees until they give out? I pulled him up, surprising strength for someone 5'5", and kissed him. Do you trust me? I looked at him. At the man who believed in me when no one else did, who fought for me, who saw me. Always. And we walked out together. To somewhere dreamed. Because sometimes the best stories begin with desperate lies at a gala and end with truth. And this is the end of Hannah and Marcus's story, the backroom designer and the billionaire CEO. From a desperate lie in a ballroom to the altar. From invisible to unforgettable.